Hello and welcome back. In the first video we learned how static JNI binding works and how to analyze it in Ghidra. In that case it was easy to spot native methods because they were exported with long names like java underscore something. However, real Android applications often work differently. Instead of exposing native methods directly, they register them dynamically at runtime using JNI onload or RegisterNatives. In this video we will build this version from scratch and then reverse it in Ghidra step by step, so you can see how Java is connected to native code when there are no obvious methods like java underscore something. Let's get started. In the static example, we relied on the compiler generating long exported function names like Java package name, class name, method name, all divided by underscores. But dynamic registration works differently. In this case, the connection between Java and native code is not defined by symbol names. Instead, it is defined manually inside the native library itself. The process of creating such a library is slightly more advanced. So let's build such a library ourselves. Note that CMake file and Gradle configuration remains the same as in the first part. The only thing that changes is the library implementation. So we create a library from scratch. I start by writing the first native function, static geint add. This is the real implementation of the add method. As before, the parameters follow the standard JNI pattern. JNINF*env is a pointer to the JNI interface. JObjectThis is a reference to the Java object that called in native method. Then we have geint A and geint B. These are actual parameters passed from Kotlin. The implementation of function is very simple, it is just a sum of A and B. The function returns a geint, which is a simply 32-bit signed integer. Notice that the function is marked static. This is important because it means that the function will not be exported as java underscore symbol. In other words, it means that it is completely invisible from outside the library. Java cannot find this method directly, instead it will be registered manually. For better understanding of Ghidra decompilation process, I will create two native functions in this library. So now I write the second function, a static function called is_even, returning gboolean and taking three parameters, JNINF*env, JObjectThis and geint_x. Inside the function, I return the following expression. X modulo 2 equals 0, JNI underscore true, JNI underscore false. This structure is the same as before. JNI*env is a pointer to the JNI interface, JObjectThis is a reference to the calling Java object, and geint_x is the actual integer parameter passed from Kotlin. The return type here is gboolean. JNI true and JNI false are standard constants defined by JNI, so this function simply checks whether the number is even. And again, the function is marked static, so it is not exported. Now we write the most important part. We define a JNINativeMethod array called gmethods. This structure is the heart of dynamic JNI registration. Each entry in this array contains three things. First, the method name as it appears in Java. Second, the JNI signature string. And third, the pointer to the native implementation. Let's write the first entry. The method name is add. The signature is open parenthesis double I, close parenthesis I. In JNI signatures, the letter I represents an integer. So open parenthesis double I close parenthesis means the method takes two integer parameters. And the final I means that the function returns an integer. Finally, add is a pointer to the native implementation. The second entry we write in the same way. The method name is even, the signature is open parenthesis I close parenthesis z. Here I means integer and z means boolean. So the signature means the method takes one integer parameter and returns a boolean. And is_even is a pointer to the native implementation of that function. So instead of exporting functions with long java underscore something methods, we keep the native function local and register them explicitly using the method table. This table is exactly what we will see later in Ghidra. Each entry contains three pointers. First is a pointer to the method name string, second is a pointer to the JNI signature string, and third is a pointer to the implementation function. So now we have to implement the functions that will perform the dynamic registration. I write a function called RegisterNatives, returning int and taking one parameter, JNINF*env. This helper function registers all native methods from our table. It is marked static, which means it is only used inside the source file and is not exported from library. JNINF*env is a JNI interface pointer that allows us to call JNI functions. Next, I define a variable called className. It is a constant character pointer assigned to the string. Here we define the full qualified name of the Java class that declares the native methods. Notice the format. JNI uses forward slashes instead of dots for package separators. Next, I declare a variable called class of type gclass and assign it to the result of calling env_findClass, passing the class name. We call findClass to locate the Java class. The result is stored in a gclass reference, which represents the Java class object inside JNI. Then we check the result. If gclass equals to null pointer, we immediately return JNI false. If the class cannot be found, findClass returns null pointer. In this case, registration cannot continue, so we return failure. Next, we calculate the number of entries in the method table. I declare an integer called method count and assign it the result of size of gmethods divided by size of gmethods index 0. Here size of gmethods gives the total size of an array. Dividing it by the size of single element gives us the number of methods. Now we perform an actual dynamic registration. We call env arrow RegisterNatives, passing class, gmethod, and method count. Then we check if the result is less than 0. RegisterNatives takes 3 arguments: the class reference, the method table, and the number of methods. JNI then connects each Java native method name and signature with the corresponding native function pointer. If the registration fails, we return JNI false. This usually means that the method name or signature does not match the declaration in the Java class. If everything succeeds, we return JNI true. So this helper function simplifies the Java class and registers all native methods from the table. Now we implement the main entry point of the native library. I write the function called JNIOnLoad, returning gint and taking 2 parameters, Java VM star VM and void star reserved. JNIOnLoad is called automatically by the JVM when the library is loaded using system.load library. It is commonly used to perform initialization tasks such as registering native methods. Next, I declare a pointer to the JNI environment called env and initialize it to null pointer. We need this interface in order to call JNI functions. Then we ask the JVM to provide the JNI environment. We call VM arrow getEnv, passing reinterpret, cast void double star env, and JNI version 1_6. GetEnv asks the JVM to provide the JNI environment for the current thread. Here we request the interface for JNI version 1.6. If the result is not equal to JNI OK, we return JNI error. If this call fails, initialization cannot continue. If execution reaches this point, env now contains a valid JNI interface pointer. Next, we call our helper function RegisterNatives passing env. This is where the gmethod table is connected to the Java class. If registration fails, we return JNI error. If the registration succeeds, initialization can complete normally. Finally, we return JNI version 1_6. Returning this value tells the JVM that the library was loaded successfully. So the initialization flow looks like this. First, the JVM loads the library, then JNIOnLoad is called automatically, the code obtains a valid JNI pointer, and after that it registers all native methods using RegisterNatives. And from this point on, Java native calls will correctly invoke the C++ implementations. Now let's implement the Kotlin side. In main activity I write companion object init system.load library native basics. This ensures that the native library is loaded when the class is initialized. Then we declare external function add, returning an integer, and external function isEven, returning a boolean. The keyword external means that this method is implemented in native code. There is no body there. The JVM expects native registrations to provide the implementation. In onCreate method, we create a text view and define variables. Value a which equals to the result of add function, and value b which equals to the result of isEven function. And then we set the text of the text view accordingly. So when these methods are called, the JVM jumps into the native library. But this only works because we registered those methods manually. Now I will generate an APK and open it in Ghidra. Alright, now we are looking at the dynamic JNI version of the same application. I skip the step with JDEX and move directly to Ghidra. Again, if you missed the first part, watch it because there is an explanation of Java side analysis for native libraries. In the static version, we could immediately find a function named something like java_something. But in this library, we will see something different. If you look at the list of functions on the left, we don't see any java_something function names. That is the whole point of the dynamic registration. The native methods are not exposed as java_something. So the question is, how does Java connect the native code when there is no java_ symbol? The answer is JNIOnLoad and RegisterNatives. So first, in the function list, I search for JNIOnLoad and open it. This function is special. It is called automatically when the app executes system.load library. So even without any java_exports, we still have an entry point that runs when the library is loaded. Inside JNIOnLoad, I look for a string that looks like Java class path. And here it is. Android X-Ray native example app main activity. It tells us exactly which Java or Kotlin class declares the native methods. So at this point we already know that this library is registering native methods in main activity. So as I explained before, dynamic JNI works like this. The library creates a table that contains the method name string, the method signature string, and the pointer to the native implementation. Then it calls RegisterNatives to bind them together. So our task in Ghidra is to find this table. So here is the easiest technique, especially for small libraries. We need to open the strings contained in the library. To do that, I go to the window menu and open define strings. In the right panel, we can now see all strings contained in the library. Now we search for the method names we are interested in. Let's quickly open JDEX and check the method names. So the methods we are interested in are add and isEven. We go back to Ghidra and search for these method names in defined strings, and we can see both strings exist inside the binary. Now I click the add string. Next, I right-click it in the defined strings list and choose References, Show References to the address. A new window appears showing where the string is referenced. We double-click the reference that points us to the data section, and that takes us to the region where we can see something interesting. We see 3 pointers in a row. This is the signature of a JNINativeMethod entry. Pointer to method taking 2 integers and returning 1, and pointer to function 00 something. Let's stop for a moment to explain this. Add is a Java method name. 2i and 1i is a JNI signature, meaning 2 integers return an integer. The third pointer is a real native implementation. That third pointer is the part we care about. That's where Java eventually jumps to. So now I simply double click to the third pointer. It takes me to a function that Ghidra named something like function 00 something. To see its code, I open the decompiler window. In Ghidra, you can press F4 or click the decompiler button to display the decompiled code. This is the real native code of add function. I rename the function to add JNI implementation. Now it's no longer some anonymous function. It becomes a meaningful entry point. And now we look at the compiler output. It is exactly what we wrote in C++. It returns the sum of 2 received integers. Now we also can retype the type definitions. If you want more explanation about what this means and how to create them, you should refer to the first part of this video. So as we already know, the first argument is a pointer to JNI environment. So let's retype it to JNIEnv and rename it to env, meaning environment. The second argument is always a pointer to a class or to an object, depending on whether the method in Java is static. Let's quickly check this in JDEX. We see that the method is not static, so it is an object. We change the type of the second argument to GObject and rename it to this object. The remaining arguments are the real Java arguments, in this case 2 integers. For consistency, let's retype them to gint. Here goes the first one, and here is the second. We also rename them to first number and second number. Now the method is fully readable. So even though there was no Java underscore something method, we successfully found the method implementation in native side. Now let's do the same for the second method. Back in defined strings, I search for isEven and click on it. I right click, references, show references to address. Here we see more than one reference, so we check them one by one. Okay, so the first reference is unrelated, and now we check the second one. And here we are, we see what we are interested in, a triple pointer pattern. Name, signature, and function pointer. In the table we see isEven, a pointer to a signature string, and a pointer to another function. Now we follow the third pointer again. We open the function in the compiler and rename it. isEven JNI implementation. Now we can see the implementation itself. Let's also quickly clean it up. We retype the first argument to JNIEnv and rename it to env, and we change the second argument type to GObject and rename it to this object. And the last argument is an integer, so we change it to gint and name it simply number. The compiler might display the method implementation in a strange bitwise form because the compiler optimized it during compilation. But logically it represents the same idea. This native code simply checks whether the input number is even. So again, we successfully found the real implementation. Now this is the key takeaway. In dynamic JNI you don't rely on exported Java underscore something methods. Instead you rely on JNI onload, class strings, and JNINativeMethod table. This is exactly the workflow and real APK reversing. So today we learned how dynamic JNI registration works and how to analyze it in Ghidra. Unlike static JNI, there are no obvious exported methods like Java underscore something, so we have to rely on JNI onload, method signatures, class strings, and JNINativeMethod table to find the real native implementation. This pattern is very common in real Android applications, and now you know how to approach it during reverse engineering. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.